Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that, well, it's a fundamental shift in how you will interact with the digital economy, probably sooner than you think. We're talking about agentic commerce.
Right. And for the entire history of e-commerce, shopping has been a process that you manage yourself. You search, you browse, compare prices, add to cart, checkout. You, the user, are the one doing all the work.
And we've already seen AI get really good at optimizing the top of that funnel, right? The discovery and the choice part, product recommendations, and so on.
That's AI advising you.
Exactly. But the reports we've been looking at suggest we are moving way past just advice. The real tension we need to explore today is the shift from an AI that advises to an AI that is authorized to, well, to act on your behalf.
Precisely. And the core definition is really that an AI agent gets the green light to complete the entire transaction process. You are delegating the purchase itself.
So not just finding the thing, but actually buying the thing.
Buying the thing. It can take a vague instruction, say, book me a reliable weekend flight to Chicago and get some groceries for the fridge when I get back.
Right.
And it executes. It builds the shopping basket, it applies your loyalty points, it chooses the cheapest delivery, and it places the order.
All without you clicking confirm on every single step.
Exactly. The whole experience shifts from go through the steps to just tell me what you want.
The convenience of that is, that's an incredible promise. But if convenience is the headline, the immediate tension that jumps out is control.
It is. Convenience is the big selling point. But the real story, and the source materials really hammer this home, is what happens to accountability, what happens to trust, when a machine can spend your money with almost zero friction.
Okay, so that tension between, say, magical speed and the need for governance, that's the mission for this deep dive.
Let's unpack it.
So let's start with the mechanics. Commerce has always been an optimization game, right? Retailers obsess over conversion rates, payment companies fight fraud. What happens when agentic commerce just squashes that entire customer journey?
It's fascinating because the journey as we know it pretty much disappears. If you want, say, new running shoes, you might go to 3 different brand websites, check a couple of price comparison sites, then go back to one to buy.
The usual routine.
With an agent, you just say, buy me the best rated running shoes for marathon training that are under $150. And the agent does all of that work in the background. It summarizes the options, and then it just pushes one purchase through the checkout. It might never even show you a web page.
So that compression means it's not about optimizing your product page anymore. It's about optimizing for the agent's ranking algorithm.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental shift in market power. Whoever owns that agent interface, the front end where you state your command, becomes the new gatekeeper of demand.
So a big tech company, a platform provider.
Right. They can suddenly steer massive amounts of spending towards certain merchants or brands, completely bypassing the traditional marketing funnels we've spent decades building.
It's like putting a hugely powerful middle layer between you and the brand's website.
Exactly. And that brings up this huge strategic hurdle, what we could call the plumbing of commerce. An agent can't just buy things out of thin air. It needs to reliably connect to a retailer's back-end systems.
Inventory, real-time pricing, shipping, payments, all of it.
All of it. The sources we looked at show a massive push for standardized commerce protocols.
That sounds like a really high barrier to entry for smaller shops. It's not just about having a nice website anymore. You need a perfect API that an agent can talk to.
That's the key insight. The plumbing determines who gets to play in this new game. If a retailer's product data is messy or out of date or stuck behind some old system, the agent just can't trust it.
And so that retailer basically becomes invisible.
They're invisible to this enormous new channel, which is why these tight partnerships between the AI platforms, the retailers, and the payment providers are becoming absolutely non-negotiable. The trust in the transaction is everything.
So, assuming the tech hurdles get cleared, that brings us to governance. This new layer seems to create some pretty serious new problems. The source materials identified 5 core tensions that have to be solved for this to work safely.
They really do. And these tensions go right to the heart of what happens when you automate decisions involving money.
Okay, so the first one is delegation versus consent. Today, when I click buy, that's my explicit consent. But if I delegate broad authority to an agent, how do I know it's still acting on what I originally intended?
That's the problem. Delegation is broad, but consent is specific. You might tell your agent, buy my usual groceries for the week. But then the agent sees your normal brand of soap is out of stock.
Okay.
So it automatically upgrades you to an organic specialty soap that costs 3 times as much because it has slightly better reviews. Did you consent to that?
No, of course not. I delegated the task, but the agent went way beyond my unspoken budget.
And that's how convenience turns into buyer's remorse, almost instantly.
So what's the fix?
Well, the sources stress that agents need much smarter controls. Things like mandatory spending limits, category exclusions, like never buy stocks for me, or maybe an ask me before ordering anything over $50 rule.
Approval thresholds.
Exactly. Without those, you get this kind of scope creep where a small task can become a very expensive surprise.
Which leads right into the security problem. Tension number 2, identity and authentication. If an agent is acting as me with my credit card, who or what is the me that's being authenticated?
Identity becomes the absolute core security issue here. The agent is your financial proxy. If someone else gets control of it, they have your purchasing power.
So how do you prove it's you? Is it your voice? Your phone? Is it multi-factor authentication for every single purchase?
And getting that wrong is a huge risk. The problem is scale, isn't it? A human fraudster has to manually click through a checkout process.
Right, there's a natural friction there.
There is. But an agent is an incredibly efficient spender. A criminal who compromises 1,000 agent identities could execute 1,000 high-value purchases instantly,
Right.
all at the same time.
Wow.
Criminals love efficiency. And a poorly secured agentic system is the most efficient way to drain accounts that we've ever invented.
That is genuinely terrifying. Which brings us to, I think, the most complex tension. Number 3, liability and accountability. If my agent makes a mistake, say it buys the wrong car part, and it's a non-returnable item, who eats the cost?
This is the legal morass. The sources spent a lot of time here. In the old world, you had 2 parties, the buyer and the seller.
Simple enough.
Now you could have 4. There's you, the user who gave the instruction. There's the merchant who shipped the part. There's the agent platform that ran the software. And there's the payment provider who moved the money.
So when that wrong part shows up, who's legally on the hook?
That's the million-dollar question. In traditional e-commerce, you accept liability when you click buy. Here, the system is the actor. This is going to require totally new contract terms, new dispute processes.
You'd need an ironclad audit trail, wouldn't you?
You'd need to see not just what was bought, but why the agent chose it. Without that transparent, auditable log, the whole system could just collapse under a mountain of customer disputes.
Okay, so let's move from errors to incentives. Tension 4 is market fairness and platform bias. We've seen this movie before with search engines. Ranking is power.
And agents are forced to rank things. If you ask for the best value hotel, it has to define value. The worry is a powerful new form of platform bias. Is the agent really impartial, or is it steering me?
Right. If the agent's platform gets a bigger kickback for recommending Hotel A over Hotel B, is it ever going to recommend Hotel B even if it's a slightly better deal for me?
That's the new antitrust battleground. If the agent is paid to prioritize one merchant, or if it just happens to favor its owner's own products, then you, the consumer, lose real choice.
The competition shifts. It's not about who has the best product anymore.
It's about who has the best deal with the agent's owner. The sources are pretty clear that this requires mandatory disclosures for sponsored recommendations right inside the agent's interface.
And that brings us to the last one, which feels maybe the most human. Tension 5, human behavior and impulse control.
We have to talk about the psychology. Friction in the checkout process is annoying, but it serves a real purpose.
It's a speed bump.
It's a speed bump.
Yeah.
That moment when you have to find your wallet and type in your credit card number, that's when a lot of people pause and think, do I really need this?
But if the agent just bypasses all of that, we lose that built-in moment for self-correction.
It's gone. It's an express lane, straight to a completed purchase. And if you amplify impulse buying at a massive scale, you risk real financial instability for a lot of people.
So we almost need to build the friction back in intentionally.
I think so. The sources suggest that regulators might need to demand new controls that mimic that friction. Maybe a mandatory 30-second delay on big purchases, or a daily spending limit that requires a specific voice command to override. We have to replace the consumer protections that the technology is designed to eliminate.
The idea that friction was actually a feature, not a bug, for responsible spending that's a brilliant point. So let's pivot to the practical side. What are the big actionable takeaways from the sources for all the different players here?
Well, for you, the consumer, The most important thing is a mental shift. You have to treat agent permissions like financial permissions, not like app permissions.
You wouldn't just hand a stranger your wallet and say, buy me something nice.
You wouldn't. So start with really strict, low spending limits. Require confirmation for almost every purchase until you've really built trust with the system. And demand a separation of functions. Let the agent browse and recommend things all day long. That's great.
But the actual transaction.
That ability to transact needs a separate, rock-solid authorization. You need a wall between browsing and spending.
Okay, what about for retailers? Their whole model is about getting people to their digital storefront. Now there's this AI in the way.
For retailers, it's an existential challenge. They have to ask, will we even be visible to these agents? Which means investing in those real-time APIs we talked about, that plumbing, to feed perfect data into the AI ecosystem.
But it's more than just data, right? If the agent just spits out a generic product name and a price, the whole brand experience is gone.
Completely nullified. They have to figure out how to defend their brand value, their customer service, their story inside an interface they don't control. It's a huge shift from optimizing a website to optimizing a data stream.
And for the regulators and policymakers watching all this develop, what's their first move?
Clarity. Get ahead of the curve with clear standards. They need to define what legal consent looks like in a delegated purchase. They need to set rules for authentication to stop fraud before it starts. And they have to create those accountability frameworks to handle disputes.
So enable the innovation, but put guardrails in place first.
Exactly. Prevent the wave of fraud and manipulation before it happens.
And finally, for the business leaders actually building these things in banking, payments, the big platforms, they have the most to gain, but also the most to lose.
Their success will live or die on solving the trust problem. It's a massive opportunity, but it's also a catastrophic risk if they get the identity layer wrong. The winners, as the sources conclude, will be the ones who build the best trust mechanisms.
Auditable transactions, clear user controls, ironclad security.
Trust is the only thing that will differentiate them in a fully automated world.
This has been a really consequential deep dive. If I had to synthesize the core insight, it's that agentic commerce is going to feel magical because it removes all those steps from the buying process.
But those steps weren't just friction, they were control points. They managed risk, they confirmed consent, they checked our impulses. When AI moves from just recommending to actually buying, the checkout becomes a trust problem, an identity problem, and ultimately a governance problem.
So the companies that succeed won't just be the ones that make buying the fastest at any cost.
No. They'll be the ones that make it safe, transparent, and totally accountable. So what does this all mean? The future of commerce, according to the research, will be decided less by how clever an agent is at finding a deal, and more by whether you feel comfortable handing it the keys to your wallet.
Something to mull over the next time you're at an online checkout.